Hello, friends. This is a good news, bad news message, and I have lots and lots of good news to share with you next week. But this message is really focused on just one topic. And the good news is that automobile accidents are no longer the leading cause of death for people aged 0 to 19 in the United States. In other words, for children. The bad news is that automobile accidents have been replaced by gun violence as the leading cause of death for children in the United States. Um, I want to say I've been in a bit of a tailspin since the shooting in Uvalde, Texas last week, and I just didn't really know how to react to it. I was horrified, of course, and I also felt shocked and sad, and I also felt fatigued and angry. Uh, when I reflected on all these feelings, the thing that stood out to me the most is that from all the evidence that we have, um, I concluded that in our country, we're willing to live with school shootings. We find them to be acceptable and a normal part of life. And I say that because we actually know some of the things we can do to prevent school shootings, but we just don't implement them. And so I wonder if that means that we're okay with school shootings. I'm not. I'm sure you're not. But I'm troubled by the fact that we're living with them in the way that we do in this country. And I wanted to talk to you about that today. And first of all, Quakers, as you know, are opposed to violence in all its forms. And we call that our peace testimony. And I just want to read it to you because maybe you've never read the peace testimony. But it was written in 1660 and it's from the very early days of Quakerism. And here's how it goes. All bloody principles and practices we do utterly deny, with all outward wars and strife and fightings with outward weapons, for any end or under any pretense whatsoever. And this is our testimony to the whole world. The Spirit of Christ, which leads us into all truth, will never move us to fight and war against any man with outward weapons, neither for the kingdom of Christ, nor for the kingdoms of this world. So the Quakers are saying that violence is never justified, whether you're doing it in the name of country or in the name of your religion. And we Quakers do not believe that violence is legitimate in any way to address strife and difficulty. And we don't believe it's ever a solution to a problem. We find all violence, whether it be a school shooting, a war against another country, or a dispute between neighbors, to be abhorrent. Secondly, here at school, I just want you to know that we do take school safety very seriously. And it's our goal to make sure that our campus is as safe as it can possibly be, and that our faculty and staff are trained and that they're prepared for all types of emergencies. Preparing for terrible events and their outcomes can be scary, and we do it with some anxiety, but having a solid plan can make a difference if something untoward were to happen. So it's constantly on our mind. We practice for it, we train for it, and we take it really seriously because we'd like to prevent anything that we can possibly have control over. But I want to get back to automobiles and guns because I know at one time in this country we were probably, as automobile use increased, we probably said, gee whiz, they can be dangerous. People get hurt in car accidents. And having realized that accidents could be disastrous, we didn't say we're not going to let people drive. What we said was we're going to require drivers to be trained and to obtain a license. And in order to obtain a license, we've all agreed as a country that drivers need to demonstrate that they can safely operate a car. We also require drivers to register their car and to have car insurance should something bad happen. We require cars themselves to have seat belts and for drivers and passengers to wear them. And we require people transporting children to have proper child seats in their vehicles. And you can go to the local police station and ask them to check and see if your car seats for your children have been installed properly. And so over time, we continue to improve all of our safety procedures in order to prevent injury and death in the case of automobile accidents. And the reason I bring that up is that for the last 20 years or so, we've also known how to prevent school shootings, but we've done hardly anything about it. And the Secret Service teamed up with the Department of Education in 1999 to study school shootings. And they came up with recommendations that so far we've barely paid attention to. Their report recommended that we keep assault weapons out of the hands of teenagers, that we provide training for school personnel and community personnel and for families, and that we provide increased mental health to those people who seemed at risk. And I bring that up because following the Parkland shootings in Florida in 2018, local authorities mobilized and people were horrified by that event. And they actually implemented some of these procedures, including increased training and increased access to mental health. Law enforcement in Florida estimates that they stopped 4 subsequent school shootings in the time after the Parkland massacre. And they did so because people in the community identified teenagers who may have been, who they thought were in distress and required an intervention. It turns out that those 4 teenagers, they were all separate incidents, in some way relayed their plans to carry out a mass shooting at a school. They were identified, they received mental health help, and the shootings were averted, and that those people who needed mental health got better. So we've known how to do this, but we just haven't done anything about it. And that's the part that leaves me feeling fatigued and angry, that we know what to do, we just don't do it. So I think the only way for us to do something about school shootings is to change our public policy. And the only way to do that is to make sure we have elected officials who are aware of the best practices regarding prevention, and that they have the will to demand that we do all we can to prevent injury and death in our classrooms, just as we've done with automobiles. So, what I'm doing is urging you to ask questions and to let candidates know that you will not vote for them unless they show a commitment to learn about preventative measures and a willingness to implement change. If we can pull together and do this, we can make a difference in the lives of teachers and children at schools, including ours. So thank you for your time. I hope you have a good weekend, and I will talk to you next week.